Godzilla, without a doubt one of the most iconic movie monsters in the history of monster movies. He's essentially a giant radioactive dinosaur with dorsal spikes and atomic breath and hunger for destruction. There are nearly 40 movies and TV shows out there with the Godzilla name, and that's counting all the American films too. With the 70th anniversary of the original film being celebrated by the newest film, Godzilla -1, I figured it would be best to talk about the king of the monsters himself. There's something that I've always found intriguing about Godzilla throughout the films, and that is his height being extremely inconsistent throughout the franchise. I get that some of the movies are not canon to others and that there are different directors involved with different movies, but at the end of the day, they still take place after the events of the original film, even if they ignore the other sequels. The original Godzilla from back in 1954 stood at about 50 meters or 164 feet tall, which isn't nearly as tall as some of his more recent counterparts, but it's still very impressive. And even throughout the 50s, 60s, and even 70s, Godzilla's height has been very consistent. It wasn't until the release of Godzilla 1985 where the monster went through a change in height, coming in at 80 meters or 262 feet tall. In the 90s, Godzilla grew even larger with a new height of 100 meters or 328 feet tall, and he remained that height throughout the 90s. Then when Godzilla 2000 was released, he went back down to around his original height at 50 meters or 164 feet tall until 2004's Final Wars, where he goes back to his 90s height. Meanwhile, in the US, the 1998 film had Godzilla, or Zilla as the fans call him, grow to be 70 meters or 230 feet tall. 16 years later in 2014, the US created another Godzilla that stood at about 108 meters or 354 feet tall, making him the largest version of the monster to date. Legendary's Godzilla would go on to grow even taller with the release of Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong, with a height of 120 meters or just shy of 400 feet tall. Back in Japan, Toho made another Godzilla movie in 2016 called Shin Godzilla, or Godzilla Resurgence, and that Godzilla broke the record at 118.5 meters or roughly 389 feet tall. By this point, we thought Godzilla couldn't get any larger. That is until the following year. In 2017, an anime movie called Godzilla Planet of the Monsters hit Netflix, where humans returned to Earth 20,000 years after Godzilla took over the planet. The humans fight who they think is Godzilla, who is roughly the same size as he was back in 1954, and easily defeat him, only to discover that this Godzilla was only a fragment of what was to come, and the real Godzilla rises from the ground, standing at an astounding 300 meters or 984 feet tall. To this day, a version of Godzilla has yet to top Godzilla Earth in height. The version of the monster from Godzilla Singular Point only grew to be around the size of the Heisei Godzilla, while I hear that the newest movie, Godzilla -1, will have the monster at the height he originally had in the first movie. But why is Godzilla's height so inconsistent? Sometimes he's no taller than a building, and other times he's as tall as the Earth itself. It's crazy! But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time.